Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel for another midweek mystery. Today's video is going to be a little bit different from usual as I have two cases to share with you, one solved John Doe and one unsolved Jane Doe. For this video I'm going to be working with Durham, who contacted me after seeing my video on Ben Billamy/Mostly Harmless. I want to stress this is not a sponsorship, they're not paying me any money to talk about them, they're just a really wonderful company, and with my platform here on YouTube I have the ability to help them out and spread the word about the great things they're doing to help return identities to the nameless. Our morals and our values really align in that sense, so this is a partnership that just makes sense. Durham is a company built just a couple of years ago who specialise in helping solve cold crime cases and identifying the unidentified. They utilise new technology, instrumentation and techniques that succeed where so many others have failed. This company was built specifically with law enforcement evidence in mind to have the ability to work with contaminated or highly degraded material. They're routinely able to extract usable DNA from evidence where other labs have failed or potentially wouldn't even attempt. Durham do everything in-house from the DNA extraction through to the genealogy with a full chain of custody from beginning to end to ensure the evidence retains its integrity for law enforcement. They have access to all of the usual DNA databases available in forensics, but also created DNASolves.com, which is a DNA database used exclusively for solving crimes and identifying the unnamed. CODIS is the standard in the American industry, but less than 1% of unidentified remains will get identified with CODIS, and it only works about 15% of the time in identifying suspects in sexual assaults. So Durham has vertically integrated new technology that gets tens to hundreds of thousands of DNA markers from evidence using minute amounts of DNA, so they do not fully consume evidence from law enforcement. They're basically able to do what others just can't do. They're a really fantastic company, they're doing amazing things to help solve cases and reunite the unidentified with their families. And they're currently working on the Mostly Harmless case, which I know so many of you are invested in after my video on his case, and I really hope I'll be able to share with you one day soon his identity, because I have full confidence that they will find it. As well as working closely with law enforcement, you can also reach out to Durham to help you solve your own cases or cases of your loved ones if you have a need for that. You can suggest cases or help solve existing ones at DNASolves.com. First up, I want to talk to you about an unsolved case Durham is currently working on, that of Durham Jane Doe. So it was October 2016 when a self-storage unit on Carpenter Fletcher Road in Durham County, North Carolina was being cleared out. Inside a plastic container hidden away inside, they found an almost skeletal body. It was clear from the get-go that this had been there for quite a while, perhaps for up to 10 years, although they're not sure exactly how long it was there for. It was the body of a woman estimated to be between 25 to 35 years old at the time of her death. She was white and around 5'3" to 5'5", with brown hair around shoulder length, specifically about 7 inches long. There were limited interesting features to pick up on. She had no visible scars, tattoos, birthmarks, or any other unique markings that could be used to identify her. Her eye colour isn't mentioned anywhere as far as I can find. She was found wearing Nike shoes and a pair of jeans, 36-inch waist and 32-inch leg, and 2 white socks were found near the body, along with a yellow metal pulsar watch and 3 keys. Dental records were taken with the possibility of being compared to others, but nothing more has come of this. Of course, police looked into who the unit was owned by and found that it had been rented by the same person since 2010, but frustratingly, I have been able to find little more information about that. I will assume that the ownership gave the police very little clues as to who could be responsible for this. I'm just speculating, perhaps it was owned by a business or more than one person. Multiple people may have had access to this storage unit. Or maybe somebody has owned it since 2010 but never cleared it out and so wasn't aware there was a body inside the storage unit. Or maybe the owner has since died. You've kind of got to put faith in investigators in cases like this and just assume they followed all of the correct avenues and it's just led nowhere because there's such little information. There does seem to be a lot of speculation online that this woman may have been homeless and broke into the storage unit to sleep, but I'm unsure if I agree with that because of the fact that she was found inside a storage container. She wasn't just lying on the floor in the unit, she was inside a plastic container. There's no information about whether or not the lid was on the container or how tightly she was sealed in or anything like that. In February 2019, composite sketches of Jane Doe were developed by the FBI in the hope that someone may recognise her or have some valuable information, but once again, no luck. There is just nothing in this case. The sketches were broadcast on the local news and posted across missing person sites, but so far there's been no additional leads. No one seems to recognise this woman at all. Anyone with any information is asked to contact the Durham Police Department. I'll leave a contact number in the description box down below just in case. Othram have partnered with Durham PD and are working to uncover Durham Jane Doe's identity via her DNA, or at least find her nearest living relatives. As of me writing the script on the 28th of August, Othram have raised $519 towards their goal of $5,000. So if you would like to contribute towards this case and help them out, then I will leave a link to the DNASolves page in the description box. They have to fundraise to cover the cost of testing for this case. There will also be a link on that very same page for you to contribute your DNA data if that's something you'd be interested in doing, and links to other cases you contribute towards as well. I know that's a really short overview of the case, but with Durham Jane Doe there is just nothing really. There's no interesting leads or interesting things to talk about. Sometimes that's just the way it is. It doesn't always have to be a really interesting, intriguing story behind something to make it worthy of being solved. She deserves her identity just as much as all the other Jane Does do. Which leads us to the second part of this video, the solved case of Lake Stickney John Doe. Or at least partly solved case. He has been identified thanks to the combined efforts of the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, the Snohomish County Medical Examiner's Office and Othram, but his murderer is still unknown. His case began back on June 11th, 1994, the day after I was born, when two fishermen discovered a body in Lake Stickney, Everett, Snohomish County in Washington, whilst trying to untangle a fishing line on the North Shore. The body was badly decomposed in a state of putrefaction, and investigators thought they had been in the lake anywhere from a few months to a year. Because of the state of decomposition, they had very little to go off when trying to identify him. They knew they were dealing with a male, likely in his 20s, possibly older, but that was about it. He was found wearing Levi's shrink-to-fit jeans, 30-inch waist and 36-inch leg, white underwear, black socks, size 10.5 high-top light brown work boots with braided string laces, and a Vulcan sole and a belt with a metal buckle. He was thought to be from 5'8" to 6 foot tall, 135 to 170 pounds. His hair colour and eye colour were marked as unknown. His left clavicle demonstrated a well-healed fracture, meaning he'd broken his collarbone at some point, and he had very distinctive teeth, with all four of his bottom incisors having gaps between them, and he had had extensive dental work done with a root canal and fillings. His race was a point of contention. The body was originally thought to be that of a white man, and in the first composite sketch he looks Caucasian or vaguely Hispanic. But in 2016, a forensic anthropologist called Dr. Kathy Taylor examined John Doe's skull and updated the findings in his case file. She thought that he was likely 40 or older, 5'11", 180 to 200 pounds, and either black or mixed race. She made two new drawings of John Doe with dark skin, one where he looks younger and another where he looks older. Each new drawing that came out depicting this John Doe looked like it could be a completely different person, which kind of defeats the point. Essentially, no one had any clue who this man was or what he even looked like. But what they could ascertain was his cause of death: homicide by 2 gunshots to the head. No one around the lake, which was a fairly busy area, ever reported seeing or hearing anything. It was thought this body had been at the bottom of the lake for several months, and no one knows where it surfaced when it did. And he would remain unidentified for 26 years. With no leads whatsoever in this case and some very ambiguous drawings of John Doe, a Detective Sharp and Investigator Jorgensen reached out to Othram to perform DNA testing. They didn't have much DNA to work with. They had less than a fifth of a nanogram, which is less than 20 cells worth, of badly degraded and heavily contaminated DNA. Most forensic labs aren't going to be able to work with this, especially police-funded forensic labs, which simply don't have the most up-to-date technology available to them. Othram used their own forensic-grade genome sequencing and a whole load of other fancy sciencey sounding stuff to reconstruct a genealogical profile for this John Doe. This profile was then uploaded to GEDmatch by Othram, and a match was soon identified: Rodney Peter Johnson. His DNA struck a match with a cousin of his, Ellie Perry, who had previously given police permission to use her DNA in criminal investigations through a public genealogy database. She figured she had nothing to lose by opting in. And it wasn't long until Detective Jim Schaaf contacted her asking if she had any missing cousins. She told them to look at the Johnsons, and through that they found Rodney. It turned out the original findings were almost spot on. He was indeed a white male in his mid-20s. Rodney hadn't been reported missing until 1994 by his sister, who notified the Salvation Army in Seattle, and then his sister and father made an official missing persons report to the Sheriff's Office in 1996, but there was little follow-up. Despite nobody actually reporting he was missing until the mid-90s, he actually hadn't been seen since 1987 when he was just 25 years old. According to the sheriff's office, Rodney's dad said that Rodney called him once in the late 1980s asking for cash, but that's about it. It's likely that Rodney had been in the lake for as long as 7 years before he was discovered, a far cry from the original thought of just a few months to a year. Rodney Johnson was living in Seattle with his cousins and aunt at the time of his disappearance, working at a Chinese restaurant called the Holden Dragon in the Ballard neighbourhood. He was a foster child with 3 brothers and a half-sister and attended Darrington High School. He had run into trouble with the law in the past. He had a short rap sheet for burglary and a felony assault case from October 1987. Whenever he died, it was obviously after then. He actually had a warrant out for second-degree assault for almost 10 years until it was eventually dismissed, long after his body had been pulled from the lake. But whilst Rodney has finally been reunited with his identity, little is still known about his death. The 2 gunshot wounds suggest that he was almost definitely murdered, and they are still on the hunt for answers in regards to that. I'm sure any DNA on him that belonged to his killer was washed off in the lake long ago. There are some things that DNA testing just can't give you the answers for. There was one tip that suggested Rodney went camping with a girlfriend around 87 or 88 and was never heard from again, but the timeline around this is imprecise. Police are asking anyone to come forward with any information that could help solve this murder, especially focusing on information surrounding a girlfriend that he may have had around this time, or any camping trips he went on. They're hoping that now Rodney's face and name is out there, that someone may remember something and come forward with answers. It's hard to trace his movements when they don't even know exactly when he died or who he hung around with. So there we go, 2 cases, 1 solved and 1 unsolved. If you would like to contribute towards funding in Durham Jane Doe's case, and as I said, the link will be down below. Same goes for if you happen to know any information about Rodney Johnson and his death. I just really want to get the word out about the great things Othram are doing. I can't wait to see the next case they're going to be able to help solve. This is just such a new and exciting time for DNA technology. I love seeing all of the new things that can be done and the amount of old cases that are going to be able to be solved now. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any Doe cases that you'd like me to cover on this channel, then please make sure that you leave them in the comments down below as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.